What's going on, everybody? Today we are talking about Season 1, Episode 3 of Doctor Who, Boom. This episode was written by Steven Moffat, and it is the first episode that he has written since Twice Upon a Time in 2017. I am very excited to talk about this episode. I'm really glad that Steven came back for an episode. I think this is by far the strongest episode of the new era. I think it was Ncuti's greatest performance so far as the 15th Doctor. I also really like what Millie Gibson was doing in this episode, so I am super excited to talk about it with you all. This episode finds the 15th Doctor and Ruby in the middle of a war zone as the TARDIS lands on a planet called Kastarian III, where there is a war raging on between the Kastarians and this military contingent called the Anglican Marines. What's interesting about this war is that it's been going on for quite a while now, and the only ones that we meet at the beginning of this episode are the Anglican Marines, who explicitly state that in the time they have been waging this war, they have not actually seen the Kastarians. Nevertheless, this is still a very dangerous battlefield that is littered with landmines, which ends up taking the life of an Anglican Marine by the name of John Francis Vader, and is the catalyst for our conflict in this episode, as within seconds of stepping out of the TARDIS, the Doctor finds himself standing on a landmine, with no way to get off of it, and with any single step that he takes destined to get him and Ruby Sunday blown up. This is a very strong episode for Ncuti as well as Millie Gibson, because a core component of the Doctor and the way that he operates is his ability to move around and to even run when he needs to. Here, he is completely isolated in one spot for the entire episode. He can only rely on his companion and his superior intellect in order for him to get out of the situation that he finds himself in. Making things even more complicated, the Doctor comes face to face with the Anglican Marines Mundy and Canto, as well as John Francis Vader's daughter, Splice. With this entire cast of characters, we get a lot of verbal sparring about the nature of faith and war, while the Doctor is also trying to remain calm and rational in order to get himself out of this situation that he's found himself in. What's really interesting about this episode for me is that it very much feels like a play, where you have certain realizations coming to the forefront, and as those realizations are being made, there are characters that are coming in that are heightening up the tension. And it just keeps mounting and mounting and mounting until it comes to its grand conclusion. This is a very character-focused episode. I think we really get a sense of who the 15th Doctor is, as we see him kind of having to calm himself down so that he is not causing that landmine to activate. He is very understandably freaked out, and I feel like we really get to see him in that state. But rather than completely lashing out at people like he would be known to do in certain situations in other incarnations, we really see the ways that he's able to self-soothe and really get himself to a place where he can be calm and rational and not do things out of anger, which I do feel is a different reaction than we typically get with other incarnations of the Doctor. We also get to see Ruby really stepping up here, or at least trying to. I do think we saw shades of it in Space Babies when she was trying to get the attention of the snot monster. Again, we see it when she is able to summon the maestro in the Devil's Cord. Here, she really takes it upon herself to try to help the Doctor. When we get to the standoff between Mundy and the Doctor, we really see Ruby come to bat for the Doctor and really defend him. Once Mundy confirms that allowing the Doctor to blow up would be a cataclysmic event because of who he is, Ruby really springs into action here. Once the automated AI ambulance latches onto the Doctor, Ruby tries to distract it by grabbing one of Mundy's guns and trying to go off and cause some mayhem so that the ambulance will follow her. Mundy, to her credit, asks Ruby to shoot her in the arm, just a little injury that will help cause a distraction. But, of course, as that is about to happen, Kanto comes and shows up and shoots Ruby, thinking that she is a hostile trying to end Mundy's life. I really like Ruby so far. I do think, even though I am annoyed about the mystery of who she is, and even though I haven't quite seen her be able to act in a way where she has found her thing and her way of helping the Doctor, I do like that she has that spunk. I do like that in a very Clara Oswald kind of fashion, she is trying to take after the Doctor and is doing it, I feel, in a more forthright way than we saw Clara act, at least insofar as Clara's first few adventures were concerned. I really do wonder about the mystery of Ruby that we are getting here, as it seems as though her relationship with the Doctor and how long she's been traveling with him is a little bit out of order. I don't know if that is a production thing with episodes airing out of order, or if that is something we are supposed to be paying attention to, as when the ambulance scans Ruby to finish the job, essentially, it says that she's been alive for 3,082 calendar years, and so I don't know if that is meant to say that that's how many days she's been alive, or if it literally meant years, and again, we're dealing with a situation where more time has passed than is supposed to have passed, and there is something else that is going on here that we're supposed to be paying attention to. That being said, the preview for next episode seems very Ruby heavy, so I do think we will get to see her at the forefront of an adventure where hopefully she gets to do a lot more, because I do think what we get here in Boom is very good. I think she has been making a very gradual step into being a more active participant in these adventures, so I am very excited to see how that progression goes forward. As far as Mundy is concerned, I like her as a character. As far as we know, this actress is going to be the next companion for the Doctor coming up later in Season 2, I believe. And so I really liked this introduction that we got from her. I think it was very interesting to play with a character who is a military soldier, who is someone that is dealing with religious faith and is fighting a war based on that faith, and having all of these questions about what it means to have faith and do certain things in the name of faith that are considered your duty, but not really considered the effect of what you're doing beyond knowing that this is what your faith calls for. I thought that that was a really poignant thing to kind of deal with here. I think for some people it will come off as a little too judgmental of religion and especially war, but I do think there's kind of something to be said there for what type of faith is good. Is it faith in people? Is it faith in yourself, knowing that you have these qualities about you that are going to be able to push you forward and allow you to achieve great things? Or is it the type of faith where there is no questioning about what it is you're doing and what you're being asked to do, and whether or not that is a good thing, to not have to make these choices for yourself because you are following a creed that has been ordained for you? So I really think that it is going to be interesting what the dynamic between her and the Doctor is, as we hopefully see her return in season 2 and have to grapple with some of those questions. And it will be really interesting to kind of see if the Doctor comes around to her perspective at all. I really liked the tension that built here. As I said before, I think it's a very great character study. I did feel with Canto and Splice that there wasn't much here. I kind of feel as though Canto was fridged in order to show some growth for Mundy moving forward, especially as she later becomes a companion for the Doctor. So I didn't really love that aspect of the episode. With the kid Splice, I think the actress was fine. Other people were saying online that they thought the lines for Splice were a bit too childish, and that maybe a younger actor needed to play that role. I don't necessarily disagree with that. I think there is a lot of truth to that, and I didn't really feel that I connected with Splice as a character. I certainly understood what she was going through. I just felt like the character herself was a little bit wooden. I was not really sure what she was there for. I feel similarly to Canto that she was there just for Mundy's own character development, and I didn't super love that. I really liked the conclusion of this episode. I thought it was really great that the Doctor figured out that the Kastarians didn't exist, and that the Anglican Marines were essentially launching a war against themselves. I thought it was really brilliant to bring in the commentary about war and the funding of war, because it is profitable, and so it is not always a righteous thing. I thought that was a really great commentary, and I thought that was a great way to do it, by the simple mention that the villain guard landmines and all of the weaponry that the Anglican Marines were using was being used with the purpose of having an acceptable number of casualties so that you still have people alive to be fighting this war and to be buying these products so that the military industrial complex isn't getting shut down. I thought that was a really interesting commentary, and I really liked the way that they did that. Speaking of side characters that I didn't really drive with, I do like John Francis Vader. I do like what we get from him at the beginning of the episode, and I think it is a great way to give us the crux of the rest of the episode, the clues that we need to come to the conclusion that the Doctor comes to by the end of the episode. I think it worked. I think I liked the performance. I believed the performance that he was giving. I do know that he needed to be there for the emotional center of Splice's character, but as I said, I really didn't like Splice's character too much, so I felt like the daddy-daughter relationship there and the plot ending with a father's love being the thing that saves the day in the middle of a war to be a bit hollow, but I like the idea there. I felt like it was serviceable enough. I'm not looking for something too emotional here. I do think that it could have been done a little bit better, especially where the AI was concerned. I felt like they touched on the idea that this was a very spot-on rendering of John Francis Vader that kind of rang hollow when there wasn't an emotional center to the AI itself. It seemed very rudimentary, only to show this expression of love at the end, seemingly out of nowhere. But again, I like all of the ideas that are out here. Some of them were executed better than others. Some characters were stronger than others, but I think for the most part, there are serviceable performances here. There are great performances between the Doctor and Ruby, and I think all in all, this was a very solid episode. That's going to be all for me for this video. Remember that if you like what you see here, you can go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so that you get notified when I post a new video. Until then, see you later, guys.